Hey guys, it's Ben from Taught AI, and in today's video we're going to be talking about cognitive load for AI tools, and we're going to be looking at the Google Workspace. So we're going to be using NotebookLM and Gemini. You may know that using Gemini, when we make custom gems, we can upload 10 separate knowledge bases, each of which can be 1,000 pages long. And in NotebookLM, we can do significantly more than that. And so what that leads us sometimes to think is like, okay, well, I'll just put everything into NotebookLM. And the problem with that is we're kind of inviting error. If I have 10 or 20 different files, which all include references to MH or curriculum, when I ask the tool a question, it's really quite likely it's going to look at the first few answers and presume it's given it. So what we're going to look at doing is consolidating a group of files using NotebookLM to do it. We're going to use Gemini prompts to extract all of the information that we need and kind of just cut out all of the stuff that we don't need, references, I guess just chat that naturally goes into written reports. And then once we've got that information, the last little bit we're going to look at is how we can format that really nicely into a Google Doc. And the way we're going to make that really user-friendly for the AI tool is that we're going to use headers. So that's kind of what we'll be looking at. So let's jump straight in. You'll see on my screen, I've got a group of files here. These are all really for leadership. And so what we're looking at is things such as delivering school improvement, from EEF, guide to pupil premium, teacher retention, recruitment, professional development, funding, as well as stuff from the government on high needs funding. So these are our core files, and I'm tempted to upload them all. But like I said, today's really about cutting out hallucination and managing the cognitive load of our tools. So how do we do it? We're going to go to NotebookLM. And we're going to create a new notebook. And I'm going to title this my heads engine. And I'm going to add my sources. So those are the files that I was just showing you in my Google Drive. I'm going to choose the ones that I want, ignore the other two. This is just a kind of consolidated document that I keep. And then we're going to talk about that Word document shortly. So I'm going to upload those into here. Now, the way that NotebookLM works, if you're not sure, is we kind of just talk into the box here. This is kind of the chat function of the tool. But I really need to ask it some quite clever questions, actually, to get the right extraction for a heads engine in an alternative provision. And that's kind of above grade, so that's where Gemini steps in. So I've got a tool here which I've been speaking to, and we're going to have a little look at developing the Word doc and how we're going to export the files. So number one, an alternative provision, leading, funding, and strategic operations engine. I'm going to take this information. I've given it a really nice bio. This is, again, written by AI based on the files. And that just kind of sits at the top of this as a knowledge base. And I'm going to drop that into a Word doc. And the first thing I'm going to do is give this a heading 1. And I'll talk a little bit about headings towards the end of the video. So that's live. Let's go back to NotebookLM. Great. It's uploaded all of my files. And what I'm going to do now is start getting some prompts out of Gemini to extract exactly what I need. I'm kind of hoping and presuming for this video you guys are quite comfortable with like prompt creation using AI to generate prompts, but there's a separate video you can take a look at that will explain that to you. So it's looking at the first file that's going to sit at the top of my research. This is about leadership implementation. I copy it from Gemini and I drop it into the NotebookLM function. And you'll see here focusing strictly on the document titled a secondary implementation, a school's guide to. So it's not going to look at the other files, and it's going to specifically draw out all of the key information that I need for my school. Now, as that works in the background, I'm actually just going to do a little bit of organizing of what my that Word doc's going to look like. I've got my titles here. I'm going to drop these into Google. This is going to end up being like my master brain. And I'm going to let these sit in here. So great. Create a nice bit of spacing. And I'm going to set all of these as heading 2s. Okay, so my heading 1 is that this is the heads engine 4. I've got my kind of biography of what it does. And now I've got my headings laid out nice and clearly. So let's jump back to NotebookLM and see what we've got. So the tool's extracted all of the most important information that I need here. It's really streamlined it down into exactly what, not just I need, but actually what my AI tools specifically need. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save that as a note. And that's just going to pop it over into the right-hand side. You'll see this just show up any second. And I'm going to name that as the number 1 EF school implementation. That's my first massive document, completely streamlined, exactly in line for what AI needs to function really, really well. And I'm going to go back to Gemini and I'm going to say, done. File 2, please. And now this gem is just going to immediately create the exact prompt that the NotebookLM needs to extract the precise information really targeted on what I need for my tool. We're going to jump down here and prompt number 2 is written. I'm going to take that, paste it into NotebookLM in the chat function here. And then what I'm going to end up with is my second file that I'll be able to pin over on the right hand. Now this seems a little bit laborious, but this is all about quality outputs. And it's all about, if we're sharing tools and if we're taking lead in our school on creating tools that colleagues are going to use, this is about reducing the risk of poor information coming out of them. And so you could think of it as best practice. It takes a little bit of time, but it's absolutely worth doing in terms of ensuring the tools give you the best possible outputs. So my second extractions happened. I sort of missed what this one's actually for. What is this? Strategic funding. So where is that? Go back to Gemini and check. Secondary effective professional development. Great. I'm going to pin that as a note. Number 2, EF, secondary, gosh, what was that? Professional development. Excuse my typing. Okay. Now, I've actually got about 6 files. I'm not going to spend today's video going through all of them. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. The last little bit we're going to talk about is why structuring these in a Google Docs is really helpful and how we do it. So you remember from earlier, I've got all of my heading 2s here. These are the files which are feeding in. And so now I'm quite simply going to paste in the extraction, or I guess the key information from the file which Notebooks produce for me. So I open it up, pull out the information and paste it over to my Google Doc. Drop that in. Great. And the last little piece of information, I've got my heading 1, my heading 2. I'm going to do some heading 3s for the summary of the information. And the last bit I'll kind of explain is why we do that. Great. The shortcut here, if you don't know, to change headings, Control-Alt-1, heading 1, Control-Alt-2, heading 2. So I'll do Control-Alt-3. These are heading 3. Now, what you'll see is on the left-hand side, I've now got a really easy to jump through document that will end up guiding me through the key steps and information that are found throughout the file. It means I can easily find information and update it really quickly when the EEF or Ofsted or the government produce new information. But actually, this is kind of how AI works and how it thinks. So when I give it a document like this now, instead of having to go through 500 pages looking for keywords, trying to prioritize which ones are most relevant for your specific request, and then kind of guessing, which it does do, let's be honest. Now it simply looks at the categories, the heading ones. Okay, this is about heads, that's going into the tool. Then it thinks about, this is to do with implementation and the summary of the key points, key application strategies. And it's able to read it really quickly, really accurately, and give our tools really reliable outputs. We can do this with a lot of documents instead of data dumping. And it's a little bit time consuming. But like I said, if you're taking a lead on tools in your school, it's absolutely the best way of thinking. I'll obviously do a little plug here, because if you don't want to do the heavy lifting, that's what Taught AI is all about. So, I've developed notebook LMs with consolidated files for primary schools, special provision schools, looking at curriculum, teaching, learning, and obviously kind of what I think I really pride myself on being at the front of is inclusion and SEND. So if you're interested in hearing more, drop me an email. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of a direction in terms of thinking about cognitive load for AI and best practice and reducing hallucinations. I will see you guys next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.